First of all, I think most of you are in businesses, right? You're in some sort of a business. So you have either a customer or a consumer that your business is supporting, right? First and actually most important from a business perspective is that to understand and to respect your customer and consumer. This sounds very obvious, this sounds very easy, but it's not always like that. And often I've seen, and I've done these mistakes myself, that we take our customers and consumers for granted because we might be a big company, we might be in a position that Pivara is in the market here, which is a market leader, and we might take our customers and consumers for granted. So we might think that almost whatever we do, they will still buy our products. And this is one of the biggest mistakes, in my opinion, that you can make. And I will tell you a couple of stories about customers and consumers, what I have encountered. Second, equally important, and actually very close to the first one, is that it's very important to lose the arrogance. I hate that word arrogance. Actually, we had a discussion about this morning with my team on a different topic. Companies, particularly big companies and big brands, they get arrogant. I mean, Coca-Cola is an arrogant brand globally, without any question. We're trying to change this as a company, and the current management is very much behind that to become, let's say, more reasonable, more human. But big brands, they are arrogant. They are going, into countries. They put their standards in place. They put their methods in place, and they think that everything will work like this. And for a certain period, it will work. But you lose the connection with the local people. You lose the connection with the local businesses, and that is something you cannot afford to do. And linked to the arrogance is that do not assume that you know things in advance, especially if you go to a different country. Do not make the assumption that because you have dealt with something before that it will be the same. It would be my recommendation to take the approach that you know nothing, but you will find out very quickly. Yeah. So when you go to a different country, when I have gone to a different country, I've used the rule that I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, which means that it's more important to listen than to talk, to learn, to understand about the country rather than to go and tell people what to do. So honestly, I've been doing this type of job for 15 years, and I can still say honestly that I know very little about the consumers, for example. I tell you a story. And I've been in the fast-moving consumer goods basically all the time, even with Shell. And we did a test recently that we went and we actually followed some consumers in the store. People like you and I. So we basically gave the consumer, this was in Italy, we gave the consumer €50. We said, we want you to do your normal grocery shopping. Don't mind us, pretend we are not there. Go and just shop whatever you shop normally. And can we follow you? Can we just understand what are you buying? Why are you buying? To understand. And I thought, I've been doing this 15 years. 60-70% I will know what she will buy, because I had a profile that she's a housewife, she has a family, all this kind of stuff. Probably at the end when I had made my list of how she spends the €50, and I compared to the actual list, the match was 10%. And that's another proof for me that actually, we really need to come with an open mind to these situations, because we really don't know. And such a thing as an average consumer or customer doesn't exist in the world. Might exist statistically, but in flesh and blood it does not exist. The best about this experience is that this person, they gave me the brief, and they said this person, there was nothing about an animal there, that she would have a dog or cat. So of course I was not even thinking about dog or cat food. And then she went and she bought these dog biscuits. I could not understand this. Why does she need dog biscuits? So at the end we had an interview. I asked, why do you buy dog biscuits? And she looked around and said, you promised me you don't tell anybody. I'm honestly breaking the promise, but anyway. My husband really likes them. True story. So you don't know always gonna get. The third thing is it's important to, and I think this is not new for you, and you're all young people, so you're probably by nature very innovative and open to change. But it is important to take risks, to innovate as business, as individuals, which you are doing by learning, and to be open to change. Because the pace of change in every country, but in the world generally, has become so rapid in recent years that if you close your eyes and pretend it's going to be the same for a couple of months, you're out of the game. And this is very important. Very often you hear people saying, we do things because that's the way we've always done them, or it's always been like this. Well, that may be, but in today's reality that's not going to be good enough anymore. And finally, and most importantly, it's what I've learned in this 15 years is the importance of people, and linked to that values and behaviors. So I was very happy to hear Zoran talking about vrednosti,
yes,
which is values, I think. This is extremely important, and very often the values and the way people behave in the working environment are more important than the actual results and cold hard numbers. But I will explain you what I mean by this. So now to come back to myself and where I actually started from, is that when we talk about customers and consumers, then I first found my first customers in a petrol station, but at the time I was not working in a petrol station. So when I was in university, 18 years old, I had a job, and the job was to sell something which is called timeshare. I don't know if you've heard of the concept timeshare. No? That's good, because you don't want to buy it. I can tell you. Timeshare is basically a concept where you buy a part of the apartment in, for example, in this case in Tenerife, in Canary Islands, but it could be otherwise, for very high money. So, for example, you pay 8,000 euro and you can use an apartment for 2 weeks every year in Tenerife for the rest of your life. But it doesn't really work out because you have to buy your own flights and everything, so eventually you will end up buying more, so it's completely something you don't need. So if anybody comes and tries to sell you timeshare, my advice would be don't. But this was year 1993, and this was an extremely new thing in Estonia, so I went to work for them, and my first job was to find the potential customers, the so-called leads, yeah, that would go to the office to and to whom we would then have the selling, let's say the active sort of selling pitch. And so they told me that, go to the main street, like you have Ulica Makedonska in the center, go to the main street, walk back and forwards and take down numbers and telephone numbers of people, and then we will call them. The problem was, and I was successful in doing this, I got a lot of numbers. The problem was that I was getting paid only for the guys who actually bought. So I bought in a lot of, a list of numbers, but I didn't get any money because the people didn't buy. They went to the presentation, they left, they didn't buy. So this went on for 2-3 weeks, and I was starting to think that this is not going to really work. So then, for the first time in my life probably, I sat down and I was thinking, so who am I looking for actually? Who are the people who would increase my percentage of buying? I mean, how can I find them? And I was seriously sort of thinking about this for a couple of hours, and then suddenly a little light went up. I said, I know where I need to go. And I went to the petrol station. Well, this was the first international petrol station that was opened in the country. So I was there in the petrol station with my papers, and I started to see customers, and I scanned them based on the car they were driving. So if he was driving a Lada, it was maybe not worth it. If he was driving a BMW 7 Series, I approached him and I said, would you like to come to this? And my salary, as well as my rate of success, went through the roof. They took me to they actually gave me an inside job 1 month later because they thought I'm so genius. Well, I was not genius, I was just in the right place compared to the others. But that is a learning that I've kept with me, even though I don't support the business that much, but the learning is good because from that moment onwards, I was always have been thinking about where I find these customers and why are they the customers that should be buying our product. What is their linkage? How can we make them link to our product? You know, and there are different ways of doing this. Today, of course, it's different. I mean, now I put a Facebook slide in just because you're all young and probably, you know, you're all in Facebook. I'm not in Facebook, by the way, but what I found out that today you find customers in different places. So we launched, does anybody know Monster Energy? Yeah. It's a great American energy drink brand. We don't sell it here in Macedonia, unfortunately. But in my last job in the Baltic states, we sold. And we launched this product very untraditional, which means that we only had it on Facebook, and that's it. So there was nothing, no media, no TV advertising, no radio advertising, no newspapers, magazines, billboards on the road, nothing. Only Facebook. Additionally, an important point was that when we were launching it, we had conversation that, you know, it's to do with sort of, you know, girls, obviously, it's part of the whole image they're trying to bring, but also rock music and sports and everything like this. And we had one of my colleagues were in the office and was saying that we should sponsor some band, you know, with Monsters. Yeah, sure. I mean, sounds like a great idea. And then everybody in the office came to what band we should sponsor. And at the end of it all, they had brought me a list that said, none of them, because if you want to access the people that drink Monster, you don't know the bands they listen. So we need to find something that none of us has heard of, because that's the only way it will become cool. We are old. I mean, I'm closing on 40. What I listen is not cool to the ones who drink Monster. So anyway, so we did the whole thing on Facebook only, and within a matter of 4 months, we had 12% market share in the Baltic states. The most successful launch of any FMCG product during this year. So, you know, it's different where you can find customers, and I'm not saying that one is right and the other is wrong. Whether you go to petrol station to pick them up or whether you go to Facebook, what I'm saying is that it's very important to think about this extremely carefully. You know, you don't want to shoot randomly into the forest and hope that something hits your target. In the future, things will probably be even different. I found this recently when reading an article, and I thought I'd share with you because I found it very interesting. This is, by the way people shop these days in Korea. And you will not see it from here probably, but this is a subway station, a train station. So what they thought in Korea is that, shops, the traditional shops are very expensive to run and complicated and everything, and you don't have location. So what they're doing now, Tesco, and you know Tesco probably, it's a global retailer, they have opened these test stores in the subway stations. And the way it works is that when you wait for your train, you take your smartphone, there is a shelf here. It's not actual products, but there's a picture of a shelf. Then you use this, camera thing, whatever they call. Yeah, exactly. And you take it with your phone, what you want to buy, basically. Then you send it as an SMS. They get it, they pack it, and by the time you get home with your train, you have the products there. That's how they actually shop in Korea today. Not in 10 years' time, but today. So tomorrow will be something different again. Again, I'm not saying this is something that will happen in Macedonia perhaps very soon, but or in Europe generally. But it's just something I thought I'd share with you because I found it amazing as an idea. Now, consumers, they indeed change extremely fast. And now when talk about change, this is another thing I picked up on one of the presentations, is that in 1965, this is in US by the way, but I think the differences are not that big. In 1965, a housewife who cooked for the family spent 2.5 hours making dinner every day. So that meant, of course, that she had much more time to prepare, but she also prepared ingredients much more carefully. She went to shop them much more carefully. She had probably bigger stocks of things at home, everything. 2.5 hours every day. Today, and they have done a study on this, the average is 12 minutes. Also, the families might be a bit different today, but another story. But the average is 12 minutes today. Yeah. So you can understand that, this is changing completely the way the customers customers act. Sorry, they don't have the time anymore. They're running in and out. They're trying to get something which is ready or almost ready, or find quick solutions, things like this. This is, of course, quite a big time, 40 years or more. But this change is accelerating even faster. It's accelerating even faster. And now we see all these things coming up, like you see the shop in Korea, other things. And it is very important to be open to that change. Coming back to my previous point. If you're not open to that change, if you think still like 1965 or 1985 or even 1995, your business will not have growth. That's just fact of life. Now, how do you get the understanding of the changes? This is another thing I would like to leave with you. Of course, the traditional way is to say, let us do a market research. So let us pay 5,000-10,000 euros to a company which will tell us exactly what the consumers will think. And it can work, by the way. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, and we in Pivara do a lot of market research as well. The problem you have, and I've experienced this, is that very often people not necessarily say the same thing they do at the end. I'll give you an example. When I was with Shell back in year 1999, I think it was, or 2000, we were considering launching something which is called a differentiated fuel. Now these days you have it everywhere. You have locally here, even all the companies have some special fuel with a brand, and it is a better fuel with additive. Back then it was nobody had it. Fuel was just a fuel. Fuel was like milk in the product. You had a liter price and that's it. There was no difference between the fuels. So there was a great idea by somebody that why don't we make fuel better? Why don't we give it a brand and make it better? And of course the next thing to that was, let's have a market research about it. So two concepts were created and people were asked to say which one they liked. One was Shell Pura. This was the brand. And the idea here was that it's the cleanest fuel that you can have. So it has the least emissions to the environment. It saves it helps to save the planet. It's better for your kids, for the future. I mean, very, very nice proposition, right? The other one, which is actually here, was something called Shell V-Power Racing, which was all about power, Ferrari, acceleration, driving, driving pleasure, all this kind of stuff. Nothing about environment. And the results came back from market research, and it was like 95% preferred Pura and 5% V-Power. Because if you ask people whether you care about the planet or whether you want to try fast, face to face, people find it uncomfortable to say, well, I don't really care about the planet, I want to just try fast. So they all say Pura. So they launched the Shell Pura in Ireland, and it was a complete disaster. It was a complete disaster. 6 months later, it was discontinued. And then somebody said, okay, let us try with the V-Power anyway. And the V-Power is at the moment a huge brand. I mean, if any of you watches Formula 1, then you don't see Shell signs anymore, you see V-Power. Because they're trying to make V-Power even bigger than the Shell itself. Extremely successful, a lot of new money for Shell, much more profitable than normal fuels, everything beautiful things. So you cannot always trust the market research, only in some cases you can, but not always. So what to do then? I haven't come up with anything better, to be honest, than a very simple thing. We need to go in the market and we need to ask the people. Here is actually some snapshots of something that we do in Pivara today. we have a something we called Super Fridays concept here, which means that every second week our people in the office, all of us, go to market, they go to our customers and consumers and work together with them for a day. Every 2 weeks. Just last Friday I was in Tetovo, and 2 weeks before that in Kumanovo, working with our customers, filling the shelves, filling the coolers, cleaning the coolers, all these kind of things, because, and this is invaluable, partly because, okay, we also do some work there, but the work in the large scheme of things is not huge. I mean, we cannot cover, of course, all the outlets and all the rest. But the learnings we get from actually working with our customers and consumers is invaluable. I learn more in these Fridays than I learn the whole week in the office. Honestly, I'm not lying to you. Simple things, easy things. Like last Friday we figured out that our market developers are struggling big time putting a certain poster on the cooler. I mean, they can put it on the cooler, but to remove it they need 3 hours. 3 hours just to remove one poster. And we could change it overnight if we make a different design to it. Now, people don't come and tell you about this unless you go out and you experience this yourself. So, an advice from me is whatever business you are in, don't lose the touch with your customers and consumers. And I really mean don't lose touch by going out there and working with them if you can, talking to them. There is nothing so important in the office here that is more important than this. And I think Lisa can agree with me. She has been with us, and all of us has been with us for all of these Fridays. It's also great fun, by the way.
Fully agree.
Yes.
I fully support the idea. But just for you to know, the idea came with Jaak. Earlier on, we haven't had this approach, and that is all about learning.
Yeah. Okay. Then a little bit about the change. I talked about the V-Power again, so that's why I have it up here, not to confuse you with too many different things. My learning about taking risks in innovation is actually the same story that I talked before about the Shell V-Power, but from a different angle. So once there was a decision made that we go with V-Power instead of the Pula, I was part of the team that was launching it in the Baltic states. And we were thinking, so how do we price this product now? Normal 95 fuel at the time was around 60 euro cents. That was the good old days. You know, you don't get fuel for this price ever anymore, probably. But at that time, it was still possible. And then we were sitting around and thinking, so what should it be? 65, maybe 70, kind of being very cautious. And myself, I was always struggling with this concept. But if I charge 65 for it, what will the consumers think? And I was afraid that the consumers will think that it's the same thing. It just has a nice little label around it, but I'm buying the same thing for a slightly higher price. So I went to my boss at the time and I said, I would like to do it differently. I would like to charge €1 10 cents for it, for liter. Remember, the regular was 60. So almost twice the price in year 2000. And he was like, oh, come on, you must be nuts. Nobody will buy it, ever. Nobody will ever buy it. I mean, it's just way too expensive. But then somehow I kept sort of talking about this and kept talking about it. And also what helped was the Baltics for Shell was extremely small. So they said, okay, maybe let's give it a try, because you cannot lose really anything. So eventually he told me, fine, if you're confident enough, go ahead. And I remember when we had the press conference to launch, we had a nice launch event with Ferrari, Formula One and everything, and very fancy event. And at the end was press conference. And my boss was getting more and more nervous because we were sort of sitting there and I was supposed to explain. I said, Jaak, are you sure about this 110? I think they will kill us, the journalists. I said, well, I mean, it is what it is. We have to go with it now. I was also nervous, of course. And then, after all these fireworks and presentation and everything, they asked, what is the price of this new product? I said, €1 and 10 cents per liter. And I was expecting this wave coming. Wrote it down very quietly, peacefully, nothing. It turns out that was what was required to make it believable in this specific case. And what turned out later is that we actually, in the Baltics, we had the highest share of V-Power Racing sales from the total petrol sales in Europe, with the highest price. In this case, and I'm not saying that this is again a solution for everything, so I'm not planning to increase the price of Coke to €2. I don't think that would work. But what I'm saying is that for this specific item, the price increase was necessary in order to give the product the status it required. Otherwise, it was not. They didn't believe into it. If you have a low price increase, they think you're just charging extra for the same thing. You needed to put it on a different level for people to actually believe that it is different. So it was a big risk for myself, but one that worked out very well. Also, the other example here is Red Bull again, who went and did the same thing in US when they launched. When the whole energy market was in 250 ml cans, Red Bull was the one who said, let's go for 500 ml. And initially it was also a big risk because people said, no, nobody will buy it, it's too much, all the rest of it. Today they have overtaken Red Bull in market share in US. So another example of an innovation and doing things a bit differently. They also like to have pictures like this. See, your grandfather's energy drink, Red Bull. So they think it's a bit old-fashioned these days. But let's see. Finally, before we get to your questions, I get back to the most important thing, which is the values. And here I have actually on the wall our values, Pivara values. We have developed this with all of our people actually quite recently, this summer. And we're very proud of this because this is developed by our people. So this is not something that myself or Lisa or anybody told our people that this is how you need to act. They came up with this and they created it themselves. And this is why this is very important is that values drive behavior. So you behave according to the values you have. And a company behaves according to the values the company have. And the behavior is directly linked to the performance. So we can only be successful if we have these values in use. So I will go through them just one by one. We have, starting from the orange one, we have something we call authenticity, which basically means that we want to be open, we want to be honest in everything we do. With our partners, with our customers, with our consumers, with ourselves, with our stakeholders. The times when good business was considering cheating somebody into is not here anymore for us. I remember this 20 years ago. It was important how to cheat your counterpart. But this is so short term. This lasts for a week. And then you don't have sustainability anymore. The second one down here is caring for our people. By this we mean that the people who are with us in Pivara, we should give them opportunity to learn, to develop themselves, make sure they are treated fairly, so that everybody has a chance to grow together with Pivara. Very important thing for us as well. We act as one down here. This is important for us because we have different departments, obviously. And a big issue that can happen in bigger companies is that the different departments have different goals, and therefore they go on and do different things. And then they start to fight with each other about their own personal targets and how to achieve them. So a message that we're trying to get through to our people is that we need to work as one. And the benefit of Pivara as a whole is always bigger than the benefit of any individual or any individual department. Then up there is something we call excellence. Excellence is basically that we do want to be known for good quality. I think we are known for excellent quality of our products. The products we produce are top quality, and they're actually in both Coca-Cola and Heineken system, they are top quality as well. We have received a few years ago an award for best Coca-Cola in the world. That was produced right here behind this wall. And in Heineken as well, we are constantly among the top quality products in Europe in terms of scope score. So we have that. But quality goes beyond that. Quality in everything we do. Quality in the execution in the marketplace. Quality in the reports we provide. It's very important for us as well as a value. Then learning, which I don't need to explain too much. You're doing it all here today. I'm not sure how much you learn from me, but I'm sure over the course of the program you will learn a lot. It's very important value for us as well. And finally, winning with our customers, where I get back to where I started from, that the customers and consumers are very important for us, and that's why we also enjoy so much the things we do, like Super Fridays and so on, that we actually get to spend some real time with our customers and consumers. So this is our values. This is what, by the way, if people come to work for us, this is what we're looking for. More than their diplomas, previous job experience, everything like this. We're trying to find out and look for people with these values. This is the most important thing. When we assess our people, this is what we look for. It is, I regard much more higher a person who works according to these values and maybe has missed his target than somebody who has made his target but doing it against his values and left a mess in the organization or around him. So it's very, very big and important thing for us, and actually we will have, just tomorrow, we will have a full day with our middle management where we agree some big changes we will do in Pivara regarding the values and how we operate for next year. So it's very, very high on the agenda.